what's up guys? I'm Allie, this is Treat Your Shelf, and today I'm going to be filming my August wrap up. This month, I read only 8 books because college started and we had to move out of our Sumter house and then move to Anderson and all this other crazy stuff. So, I only got to 8 books, but I think that it is a good amount of books that I read despite the circumstances. So the first book that I read was Career of Evil by Robert Galbraith, which is also J.K. Rowling. She's just under a little pseudonym or whatever. And this was a thriller, and it's part of a detective series that I really love. And I gave this 5 stars because I literally love this series so much. And it always ends on a cliffhanger. So when I was going to the Pennsylvania trip, the last video that I filmed, I got the next book in the series and I cannot wait to read it. I haven't really had the time to read that book just because it's really big, but this book was amazing. It's basically about this detective named Cormoran Strike. He is a veteran, an amputee, and he has a secretary named Robin that he's secretly in love with. They kind of like each other, but she's engaged, and that's a whole nother story. And so these body parts keep turning up in the mail to Robin, addressed to Robin, and they don't know who it is. And Cormoran Strike obviously knows that there's a personal vendetta against him with whoever is sending him body parts, since he's an amputee, so it's symbolic or whatever. So it's just an account of that, and them trying to basically juggle the business, the detective agency, with also trying to figure out who is sending them body parts, because that's just not a fun gift to get in the mail. But anyways, side note, I love getting things in the mail, but body parts, probably not on the list. Anyways, so love that series. Can't wait to read the next one called Lethal White, and I will be reading that probably pretty soon just because I can't resist the series. So I gave this 5 stars because it's actually was scarier than the other ones. It kind of delves into the mind of the person sending the body parts, the killer, and I thought it was really good. It was kind of like a thriller / a little bit of horror mixed in, and I've never seen that in any of the other books from this detective series, so I was super excited to read about that because that's just really my cup of tea. So the second book that I read was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. It's obviously a romance, everybody knows this, and the surprising thing that you're going to just sit back and be like, is this Allie? Was that I rated it 5 stars. So I hate romance, and everybody on this channel that has been following me knows that I hate romance books. I just cannot get down with them unless they have some kind of thriller component, and even then, maybe sometimes I don't like them. I just will not pick one up. But I had the romance little prompt or whatever for Jeopardy. It was read a book that the main character has some kind of disability. So I didn't have any other books. I had just read the Robert Galbraith one, since he's an amputee, that would have worked, but I already read it for a different prompt, so I wasn't about to reread the thing that I just finished. So I read Me Before You, and I loved it. I really liked the movie a lot. A lot of people can't really get down with Jojo Moyes' style kind of thing, but I really liked it. I thought it was really complex, and it really just reminded me of the movie and how happy it makes me to watch the movie. So I really loved it. I really loved just the emotion in it. It made me cry, which is who is she? But anyways, it did make me cry because it was pretty emotional. So I really loved that book, and I am one to be oh, Jojo Moyes, everybody else doesn't like her, so I'm not gonna like her either. But when I read that, I really just had a change of heart because it was really good. Next one I read, flip-flopping from romance to horror, I read Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I have been wanting to read more Stephen King, and you can kind of see that in my past wrap-ups and stuff. So I gave this one 4 stars because, I don't know, it really was I kept comparing it to Dracula, which I actually really didn't like, and it was way better than Dracula. There was some really crazy horror components of it and everything, but it just wasn't that 5-star read for me. After reading some of Stephen King's better books, then I will kind of just reassess, but I think that this is going to be a 4 stars just because it wasn't like, oh, I'm scared out of my mind right now. The next one I read was SlaughterhouseFive by Kurt Vonnegut. Anyways, it's a science fiction book, and I gave this 3 stars, which I was gonna give it 2 stars, but I started reading reviews about like the symbolism behind it. It's basically about this guy's account of the Dresden bombings and stuff and how he was involved in that, and it's a lot of like emotion, but like kind of hidden defense mechanism emotion. And so it was definitely one of the classics that, you know, you're like, oh, is this what they mean or not, you know, kind of thing. So I rated it 3 stars. The only reason I didn't give it like lower, because it was very confusing, was that it was very emotional, and he kept saying so it goes, like after every bad thing that would happen in his life. So I really liked that component of like the emotion and the sadness and the real true horrors of war and the aftermath of war. The next one I read was Not for Sale by David Batstone, and this is a nonfiction, and I gave this 5 stars all the way because it was very informative. It was great. It's about sex trafficking and trafficking in general throughout the world. So it's actually right here, but anyways, let's start with like, you know, shining light into the darkness, basically incorporating statistics and different things like that about trafficking that a lot of people don't even know. Like, this is like a new thing that people are finally finding out, that like kids are being trafficked, adults are being like work slaves, you know. It's just a crazy, crazy topic, and I really wanted to get more informed about it, and this book is definitely one to inform. And so as each chapter goes, you know, he talks about different countries, and he always has an organization that's in that country helping trafficking, and then there's also simultaneously in like alternating chapters an account from someone who was saved by the organization but was also, you know, like very trapped into trafficking, and so it was their account up until they are saved by the organization. So I thought that was like a really good way of putting it into people's mind of like how these organizations are really serious about saving people and like rescuing people's lives. And so there is an account of like South Asia, USA, Europe, Uganda. It's about like boy soldiers in Uganda, or like trafficking in USA that you wouldn't really think of, and different things like that. So I thought it was very informative and very good, and so that's why I gave this one 5 stars. The next one that I read was Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and this is a thriller, and I gave it 4 stars. I would kind of go lower too, though. I don't know. Everybody loves Riley Sager, and this was my first Riley Sager book, but I just didn't like it very much. It's about this apartment complex kind of thing, but like a very upscale rich apartment complex in New York City called the Bartholomew, and a lot of crazy things happen. There's a lot of like history that is not so great. Like Bartholomew, the owner of the Bartholomew, literally jumped to his death, and like ever since then it's basically like meant to be haunted or whatever, or like supposed to be haunted. And there is this girl, and she basically sees this like ad in the newspaper talking about how she can be an apartment sitter for 3 months and earn like $12,000, which like that's just number 1 red flag. But anyways, she goes there, and there's like a bunch of rules, like you can't have any visitors, and you can't spend the night away from the hotel like any night, because you know your job is to sit in the apartment basically. And she's like, oh, this is a dream, like this is legendary. But things quickly spiral, you know, into a whirlwind of craziness, basically, is all I have to say about that. And without giving too much away, like, not everyone is as they seem. The reason that I gave this, like, not anywhere near 5 stars, like, I would even give it maybe, like, 3.5-ish, is that I predicted literally, like, everything that would happen except the very end. Like, I didn't fully predict, but I knew what was gonna basically happen with like the different characters. So I don't like when that happens in books, and I just thought that it was kind of like mediocre to me. Like, I would have to pick up one of Riley Sager's like other more popular books to really get into his style of writing, but I just didn't love it. And the next book that I read was Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I love Karen Slaughter so much. Like, she is so great. Her writing is amazing, and the only thing about this, like, I gave this 4.5 stars. It's a thriller basically about these two sisters, Claire and Lydia. Claire is like rich, married into a very rich, you know, has a very rich husband, blah, blah, blah. Lydia, not so much. She's like a former drug addict and single mom and stuff like that. So two different dynamics. They haven't talked in like 20 years because Lydia told Claire that Claire's husband, Paul, like tried to rape her, and Claire did not believe her and basically pushed her away. So that's like a lot of discord. Paul, Claire's husband, dies tragically in like a knife or whatever in an alley, like just very random. But anyways, it's very complex. I don't want to give too much away because there is a lot of twists and turns in this one, but the only reason that I didn't rate it 5 stars, like, it was very good, very complex and everything. I did predict some of the things though, because so I hate that. It wasn't, you know, a deal breaker or anything, but the reason I gave this 4.5 stars instead of 5 is that The Good Daughter was like so much better in my opinion, so much more emotional. I loved the relationship between the two sisters better than Claire and Lydia, so I gave this 4.5 stars solely based on the fact that The Good Daughter was way better. So that's that. And then the very last book that I read was The Shadows by Alex North. I actually received this as a gift. I won it in my book club, and it was really good. I rated this 4 stars because I have The Whisper Man from the library, like literally sitting over there, that I need to read, and I heard that The Whisper Man is better than this one. This one's like his second one, but I heard that The Whisper Man is better, so I'm waiting to see if that one's better and that deserves a 5 star, or this one deserves a 5 star. But right now it's 4 stars. It's basically about this guy named Paul who comes back after 25 years back to his hometown because like some tragic things happened, so he literally just left and never came back. But his mom is dying and he never even knew that she had like dementia or cancer or anything like that. So his mom's dying very quickly and is in hospice, so he comes home and just crazy things happen. Like a very similar thing that happened in his childhood is happening again. There's some supernatural elements that are pretty cool. It deals with lucid dreaming, which is just interesting to read, and I will admit that this scared the crap out of me when I was reading it in my bed late at night, and like Caroline wasn't home, and I was like, please get home because I'm scared. So it did have that horror effect, and I read this one for Summerween. I read Pretty Girls for Summerween as well, which is Gabby Reed's and Olivia Reads a Latte's readathon that they came up with. So this fulfilled the prompt for read a book with supernatural elements, and it was pretty good, but I gave it 4 stars because I'm waiting on The Whisper Man to just really wow me. So those are all the books that I have for you. 8 books in all. It was a pretty good month, like for high rated books. You know, I had some 5 stars, had some like 4.5s, 4 stars. So I'm really happy about that. And also a special announcement is that I just created a bookstagram called Treat Yourself. I will have the link below. And you know, if you want to follow me on bookstagram and kind of see where I go into book reviews more in depth and, you know, recommendations, reading tips, you know, stuff to just wow your brain. Basically, I just wanted to create a bookstagram to go along with the booktube channel. So if you want to follow me below, that will be down there in the comments, and you know, comment what favorite book of yours that I read this month, if you have read any of these, and how did you feel about them. So I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.